So since it's about film and so on, so I think maybe the topic related to beauty of actresses would be of interest. And therefore I've chosen the subject of beauty and the computer. So here at St. Pami Center for Pattern Recognition Machine Intelligence, we conduct research on many different topics related to pattern recognition and machine intelligence. So, for example, recognition of human faces, louder now. Recognition of human faces and handwriting and recognition of objects, money and so on. So I would like to talk a little bit about some area that we are working on related to the beauty of female faces. So I started giving lectures in China for since 1979, when I was invited by the Academy of Sciences in Beijing, and subsequently I've given talks in many universities in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Hangzhou, in Canton, and Hong Kong, Macau, Singapore, Taiwan, etc. So you would notice that this may be about 30 years ago in Shanghai, when I gave a seminar related to pattern recognition. And you see how poor this environment was. That's to say, at that time, we just project the transparency onto the wall, and you see the wall is not very smooth, and it's not very white, and that it's very cold, and therefore it's not well heated at that time. So that's the condition of China 30 years ago. And you can see after 30 years, we can see big differences, and Canada now recognizes China a lot more and become partners maybe in the future related to trade, etc. So we come to a little bit about research at St. Pami, and see how what we do. And in the next picture, you will see a lot of beautiful faces. And how do we assess, how do we evaluate the beauty of faces? So in our project, we have something to do with the recognition of faces, and also evaluation of the faces. We look at different areas, and very similar to what was discussed before, something to do with the skin of the faces. So I will talk about that in a moment. So this one, for example, the most beautiful women in the world in 2015. Do you think you know them? So that is Shailene Woodley and Jennifer Lopez. So they are considered the top two of 2015. But why? Can we ask the computer to tell us why? And where will the computer look at the faces to find out, to give a grade to the beautiful women? So, for example, we have another one that is Lisa Marie White. she's considered as the Miss Universe. So what's so beautiful about Lisa? So that makes us try to find out. And in 2014, we have the Miss World, that is Rolene Strauss. And again, why was she selected as a Miss World? And of course, in Montreal and in Hong Kong first, we have Hong Kong, Miss Hong Kong. And 2015, that's Miss Hong Kong. And so if we look at it, we want to find out why Louisa Mak was considered as the most beautiful lady in Hong Kong in 2015. And then in in Montreal, we have this lady, is Xie Zhimei. So she is considered, she was selected as Miss Montreal. But what's so beautiful about this person? So we want to find out. And then we have Anastasia 2015 also, Miss Canada. And we have her as Miss Canada. Why was she selected as Miss Canada in 2015? So I will talk about that in a moment. So before that, I will give you a picture like Brian did, a picture of some decades ago. But I don't mind telling you that it was 4 decades ago. So at that time, I started to, more than 4 decades ago, I started my doctoral research at the University of British Columbia, where the thesis was to develop a reading aid for the blind. So we call it the Lexiform. And so here is the platform. You can see printed documents. And we want to recognize what is printed in the documents, and at the same time tell the blind person what is in the paper. So that was my doctoral thesis, and subsequently I worked on recognition of handwritten characters, handwriting of different languages, human face recognition, and recognition, detection of fake money, and so on. So these are the topics that we are working on. And also, I'm editing still a pattern recognition journal related to topics related to recognition of objects, faces, voices, and documents, and so on. So actually, the impact factor is not 3.1, it is now 4.582. And so after being editor-in-chief of this journal, I was able to increase the impact factor quite a bit. So we did a lot of studies on OCR, optical character recognition, started from my doctoral thesis, document analysis and linguistic studies, iris recognition, and the face recognition, and the palm recognition, and the recognition algorithm and psychological experiments. So now we come to faces. Can you recognize this face? Beautiful, huh? Can you recognize this face?
Montreal winter.
Montreal winter, yeah, looks like it. You think so? Clearer? Aha. So you can therefore easily understand that in pattern recognition, what we do is to look at certain features of the face, of the head, in order to identify the person. So that comes to recognition. So this one you can guess correctly, but how about the other one? This one? Not yet? Oh. Who? Wow. Who?
Charlie Chaplin.
You think it's Charlie Chaplin? Why?
Because it looks like Charlie Chaplin.
So what we do is to look at certain aspects of the person and the head in this case, and to try to find features that represent that person very well. So if we look at this one, and immediately you know that it's Charlie, right? Just the hat and plus the moustache, and therefore you can recognize this person very easily and very confidently. But how about this person? Not yet? Wow, genius. So you can see in pattern recognition, what we do is just to look at the most important aspects, the characteristics of the object, and we will be able to identify it. And later on, I'll give you another picture. This one, I think. Wow. You see, without the eyes, you won't be able to recognize this person, but the eyes, that's the beauty of this beautiful actress. So what we do in our research has to do with the makeup and the cosmetics. So one of my students is working on makeup. What happens after makeup and before makeup, and what's the difference, and does the makeup add any beauty to the person? So that's why we are interested in measuring the beauty of the people. So in makeup and cosmetics, what we do is to look at the face foundation, and also the eyeliner, eyebrow shadow, and the lipstick, and the mascara. And all this will be taken into consideration. And so we also train the system on a number of subjects of women, and makeup and before and after, and we want to find out what happens. So in this study, we had 21 women and 60 images and 60 after makeup and before. So we looked at the aspects related to beauty. And what do we look at when we look at women? Why we say this is more beautiful, this is not so beautiful, and how we can train the computer to tell us who or which one, why is this person more beautiful. So what we do is to look at the landmarks on the face. So as mentioned before, we are looking at the skin, minute detail. And these minute detail, not entirely on the facial hair, but also the skin. We are looking at different parts of the face. So this was done by one of my graduate students, Niha. And we collected faces from many people and from many pictures. And from there we chose those beautiful women, and we trained the system to tell us what is the key characteristics. So, of course, beauty has been a subject of debate throughout centuries. Socio-economic impact of beauty, especially when we talk about film making. Beauty for the actress, certainly very important. And if there are 1,000 applicants with their pictures, and how will the director of the film choose the women? The best one or the most beautiful one for the film? So what we have to do in our case is to look at the pictures and choose those who are more beautiful. So here is the topic we are working on. Of course, focuses on the scientific aspects. So this is the methodology that we have. We look at the formation of a facial representation, the texture, the shape analysis, the geometric analysis, and the classification using support vector machines. So we developed computer algorithms for analysis of the female facial beauty based on the combination of textural, face shape, outline, and geometric features. So I will go just briefly on the characteristics we extract from the faces. And here in this part, we are talking about applications. So we look at the object decision-making tools for the cosmetic surgeons and cosmetic products, and also based on beauty. For example, in filmmaking. So why we are working on that is because we've been working on recognition of faces, and so we look at the landmarks of the faces. Sorry. In order to give the facial assessment. So we, based on the face database, compiled from Purdue University, from North America, Europe. We had 35 images with a resolution of 800 by 720 pixels for our study. And for the further, we have the databases from Sterling Faces, Nottingham Faces, Utrecht in Netherlands, and we chose 77 images, again the same resolution. And from there we had also Indian face database, and so altogether we had over 200 faces for study and to train the computer. So we also took some images who were beauty pageants contestants, and from there we train the system. And before that, we survey methodology of doing that in the literature and looking at ways of ratings, how to rate the beauty of human faces. So I think it's better to say that after the collection, we did representation, and we look at the active shape models. From there, we look at the landmarks on the faces in order to find out what are the values that we have collected. We also look at the active shape models. For example, the ratios of the forehead, the nose, and the lips. So we divided the face into different portions, and from there we collect the ratios of the beautiful people, and we come up with certain figures. And therefore, based on geometric analysis, texture analysis, and the face shape analysis, we came up with a value assessing the beauty of the person. So these are the different aspects. So for texture analysis, we look at different parts of the face, and we calculate the values with respect to the texture, and we come up with certain numbers. So from here you can see that we look at the values of moments, and we also look at the normalization of the rating parameter, and look at the entropy as well, and from there we come up with the ratings related to the person. For the face shape analysis, we look at the ratios, again, as mentioned. And for the face, the skin, we divide the face into many different portions, the small patches, and from there we do analysis. So I think this may be an interesting picture. Here we look at the contour of the face in order to have the geometric shape aspect. And we also look at the eyebrows, and we look at the eyes, we look at the nose, we look at the lips, and look at all the different landmarks calculated all together. Then we come up with the value. So from the analysis, we also look at the iris. We look at the ratios of the nose, the length, the smoothness, and so on. And the ratios again. And from there, we come up with golden ratios, golden marks. So we say that if this person has this ratio and certain shapes, and the skin is of a certain value with respect to the texture, with respect to the entropy, and so on, and then we would come up with the values. So with the support vector machines, we calculate the values, and from there we come up with the assessment of the beauty of the faces. So here are some of the classification results. So polynomial analysis, we come up with 74% accuracy compared with the human assessment. Radial basis function with 85%, and using sigmoid we have this. And looking at the testing phases, we can say that 80% of the computer assessment agreed with the human assessment in our project. So we say that it's quite interesting and useful. In other words, we can make use of the computer to do an objective evaluation of the beauty of human faces. So here are some of the comparison of the results using different methods. Looking at the structural symmetry, looking at manifold kernel regression, geometric analysis, and the proposed algorithm we have, combining all the different algorithms, we come up with 85% accuracy agreement with the human faces. And we also, the system also had some disagreement with the human evaluation. And here are some of the pictures that they were not in agreement with human assessment. Maybe that is due to the lack of luminous intensity in some images. Maybe some features are not clearly distinguishable from the background. And therefore, maybe we should use Brian's technique to dim the background, or to use some other techniques to look at the illumination aspects. So, in conclusion, we can say that we had developed several systems for extracting the key features in assessment of facial beauty. And then combining the analysis, etc., we come up with 85.66%. And the ground truth is derived from surveys conducted in this part of the features. So this is one of the studies we have, and we are continuing our study looking at a 3D analysis, not only two-dimensional, but looking at a 3D aspects of the human faces. So what we have done also in Lisbon at the 3rd Global Summit and Expo on Multimedia and Applications and Artificial Intelligence, we talked about this subject, and we talked about multimedia aspects related to our research. And we are also organizing a conference on the International Conference on Pattern Recognition and AI. And you can look up the website, so maybe you can distribute them, ask them to circulate. No. And for the list of keynote speakers we have, 3 editors-in-chief of journals on pattern recognition and artificial intelligence. We have the Sherlock Holmes of the United States. Do you know who is the Sherlock Holmes of the United States? People coming from the United States? Yes, and his name is Henry Lee. Let us distribute that.
Oh, University of New Haven.
Oh, you see, great, yes, you know, yes, a forensic scientist, and Henry Lee involved more than 6,000 cases, and he has received 16 honorary doctorates, and there's a museum in China honoring him in his name, called the Henry Lee Museum, related to forensic sciences. We have also the director of AI Lab of MIT, Dr. Patrick Winston, who wrote books on AI. One of the older ones was published 40 years ago. And apart from that, we will have a big free public lecture and will be given by invited speakers, some of our model professors, Dr. Grogono, who is author of one of the bestsellers on programming languages, on Pascal, and the Vice President of the AI Society of Canada, Dr. Suen, and also two distinguished scientists in the government and also at Morgan Stanley, Dr. Kayat and Dr. Gilovic. So on the May 13th, we have the free public lecture, and on May 14 to 17, we have the international conference, and we have already lined up more than 10 special sessions with more than 120 people, presentations, plus many papers coming in between now until the middle of November. So if you are interested in that, you're welcome to attend. And before I end, I give you another beautiful face. Can you recognize this person? So you can recognize this person even though there was a kick on his faces. And so that's the difference between humans and computers. We can still recognize this person, but how can we make computers recognize this person? So this would be another subject of several doctoral theses on this topic. So thank you very much for coming and listening to my talk. Thank you.